All right, we're continuing to follow developments out of the Middle East this morning after Iran launched a massive missile attack against Israel last night. In a move, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan described as a significant escalation. We want to dig into it with CBS News reporter Olivia Gazis, who's joining me now from the State Department in Washington to discuss. So, Olivia, I guess the first question that everybody is going to want to know is, what more do we know about the U.S. involvement in thwarting this attack by Iran? We know that in past instances where Iran has launched missiles against Israel, that the United States, with its warships, has been able to intercept some of those missiles. Was that the case this time around?
That's right, yes. Pentagon officials yesterday confirmed that the U.S. was involved in assisting Israel with its missile defenses. And the State Department also alluded to some unnamed partners who were also engaged. They did not name those partners, partially out of sensitivity, because while the U.S. was able to build a sort of public-facing coalition the last time that this happened in April, it's not clear if there was a smaller number of partners in the region who were enthusiastic about assisting the Israelis or were more reluctant to do so. I mean, the situation is still littered with a lot of unknown unknowns at this stage, both about the Israeli response and whether the U.S. will assist meaningfully in it. It's assumed something will happen. The question is what is targeted and whether that leads to another tit-for-tat scenario between the Israelis and the Iranians. In April, the Israelis, we believe, responded covertly, and it sort of ended there. Now it's unclear whether they're feeling emboldened by this slate of successes they have had of late, decapitating significant levels of Hezbollah leadership, mopping up operations in Gaza, and of course successfully defending against this onslaught of Iranian missiles. So there are questions surrounding the Israeli mindset, whether they want to go in and deal a decisive blow somewhere, or whether they pull back and opt for more diplomatic solutions, as the U.S. has pressed for in the past.
So let's talk about that, those diplomatic solutions, Olivia. You're obviously at the State Department, where the number one goal is diplomacy. That is the job of the chief diplomat, Antony Blinken. I suspect that most people think that because Iran is an adversary of the United States, that there are no diplomatic channels open, but there have been diplomatic and diplomacy efforts in the past. And so I wonder what is happening sort of behind the scenes that we may not necessarily be privy to, that might not appear on the front pages of a newspaper, but that you and I can talk about.
Sure, Vlad. Yeah, because we are privy to those conversations. No, it is true that the U.S. does have discrete, select channels to pass messages to the Iranian government in critical situations, such as the one that it was facing. However, yesterday there were some reports emerging citing anonymous Iranian officials that suggested the U.S. got a heads up ahead of this attack. The State Department spokesman here saying that was absolutely not the case. There was no advance notice. The Pentagon also echoing that assertion that there was absolutely no heads up via diplomatic or other channels from the Iranians that they intended to launch this missile attack on Israel. That information was more likely obtained by intelligence services both in Israel and here, who very closely monitor what the Iranians are doing with their weaponry. So the notion that there was diplomatic engagement in order to choreograph or stage or manage this attack seems unlikely. You heard the National Security Advisor calling this a significant escalation that was only ineffective and defeated because of close U.S. and Israeli coordination on defenses, and of course also those partners that we mentioned earlier, Vlad.
All right, Olivia, always great to talk to you, my friend. Thank you very much.